Well, happy Sunday, everybody. I'm so glad that you are joining us for online church today. My friend Mike Foster is back with us today, and he's going to be continuing our series on the parables, A Better Story. And I can't wait for you to hear what he has to share about the Good Samaritan. We're going to have a few announcements, and then Mike's going to come back after worship and lead us in a teaching on the Word of God.
May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your families, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, he is with you in the morning, in the evening, and you're coming and you're going, and you're weeping and rejoicing. He is for you, he is for you, he is for you. And
shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace.
Hi everyone, welcome to Church Online. Thanks for joining us today from wherever you may be watching. We're just about to continue our series, A Better Story, but before we get there, let's make sure you know about a few things coming up on the calendar. First, Easter is coming soon, and we hope you will make plans to Easter with us. We've got both online and in-person options for both Good Friday and Easter Sunday. Lots of ways to celebrate. Good Friday, we'll be sharing a reflective online service for you to watch from the comfort of your home. And if you want to get up early with us, we'll be hiking up Battle Mountain together at 6 a.m. to share a devotional and communion. Then on Sunday, we'll be gathering at Kit Carson for Easter in the Park at 8:30 a.m., 10 a.m., and 11:30 a.m. Kids service will be available at all three services with a student service at 10 a.m. And if you aren't ready to join us at the park yet, we're already preparing a special online Easter service just for you. Next, one last reminder that the next Good Neighbor Service Day is this upcoming Saturday, March 20. Good Neighbor Day is something that we have just loved developing into a new rhythm of our faith. Serving in the garden is one of our core values, and if you want to live out our Good Neighbor mission with us, this is how you do it. Register for it online today. We are 2 weeks into our Kids Can Food Drive, and Molly is back to give you an update.
This looks good. Oh, hi, it's Molly with the Kids Can Food Drive update. Food is starting to come in, but we still haven't found a winner yet, so you still have time. You can pick up your canisters at the church or church in the park with the details on how your family can help other families in need. You give a neighbor a bag, they add some food, you pick it up, drop it off at the church at RB, and bam, you're a good neighbor. It's that easy. Just don't forget, the top 3 families get some awesome prizes. Anyways, I gotta go so that my family can win.
Thanks to all the families collecting food in your neighborhoods. Keep on collecting through the rest of March. Thank you for your generosity in supporting the ministry of the Church at RB. Your gifts especially matter in this season and allow us to meet both the physical and spiritual needs of our community. If you're in a position to give, please visit crb.gives. Up next, Mike Foster continues our series on the parables of Jesus, A Better Story. Enjoy.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike, and I want to welcome you to CRB and the second week of our series, A Better Story. And all of us want to live a better story and be a participant in really not just a better story. I think all of us want to have a story filled with excitement and joy, a story filled with peace. We want to have a story that is meaningful, where our lives are in the hands of Jesus and we're doing great things in the world. And stories are just such powerful tools to help us not only be inspired, but to learn, to discover sort of the simplicity of big ideas. And Jesus did this a lot in his ministry and in his teaching. He told a lot of stories. And so that's what we're diving into in this series, and how Jesus' stories impact our story, and how important it is to lean in and to learn and to discover new things about really the kingdom and what God is inviting us into in this very moment. I remember early on in my life, I had this opportunity where I got to meet a very special person. And actually, this special person eventually would become my wife. But at this time, I was dating a 19-year-old girl named Jennifer Maholsky, soon to be Jennifer Foster. And I had been involved in some legal problems. I was involved in a boating accident. I've shared that story before here at CRB. And I was prosecuted by the district attorney and pleaded no contest to reckless operations of a boating vehicle. But one of the things after I was charged and sentenced, I had to go out and visit my probation officer. And this was a kind of a normal thing that happens in court cases. And so the problem here was that my probation officer was out in Needles, California. Most of you probably don't know where Needles, California is. It's about 4 hours away. It's in the middle of nowhere, but this is where I had to go to meet up with this probation person. And Jennifer, who kind of barely knew me, we were just starting to date, we were kind of new to the relationship. She's all, I will go with you. I will drive with you out to Needles, California. So we piled into her red Honda Civic and drove for 4.5 hours out to this place in the middle of nowhere and spent about 30 minutes at this government building and then drove all the way back. And I just thought about that moment. I thought about Jennifer doing that for me. I mean, it was not sexy. It was not exciting. It was not fun. It was actually kind of a lousy way to spend your day. But that small act of love, that sense of, Mike, I'll go with you. I know you're having kind of a tough season. I know this is a really uncomfortable place to be. I know there's probably a lot of guilt and shame around this whole case, but I'm going to go with you. I'm going to drive with you out there. And I think sometimes, we miss these small opportunities to just have great impact in people's lives. God's putting these moments, these chapters, these stories in front of us and say, will you participate in this? I know it feels like a bummer driving out to Needles, California, but Jennifer, yes, we did get married and have had a great life together, but I don't think she would ever know how much that meant to me. This small thing turned into a really meaningful thing in our relationship and how I felt about myself and how I felt about my future. See, the Bible says this in John 13. It says, your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. See, how you're living out love in your story is the thing that matters most. How you treat each other, how you move into these places of pain and suffering, what you do in your story says a lot about what you believe and who you follow and whose story, greater story, the better story that you're participating in. You're participating in God's kingdom story. And you do that by showing love, tiny acts of love, big acts of love, serving, giving, showing up for people in their pain. And I know we look at our society and we look at our world and we see we don't actually see a lot of love for one another, do we? And yet the story that God is writing and wanting us to join in with him is a story of love. Part of love is empathy. And I kind of define empathy like this. Empathy equals shared pain. You see, that's what Jennifer was doing, driving me out to see my probation officer. She was sharing in my pain. She was saying, Mike, I'm going to come alongside your kind of messy story right now, and I'm going to show you love and compassion and concern. That's what we get to do with each other. And not only with friends and family and fellow Christians, but we get to live this way with everyone. How can we be empathetic? How can we love? How can we say, God, I want to just participate and be a part of everything that you want me to be a part of today, because I know you're asking and inviting me to a better story than what I'm living right now. And the pathway is through empathy and closeness and getting to know each other's pain and loving each other well. See, here's what I know is that you can't do empathy from a distance. You have to get close. You have to get close. I mean, so often we get bored with our stories. Our stories aren't very meaningful or exciting. And I promise you, probably the reason why it feels so uninspiring, the story that you might be in, or maybe the story that God's inviting you into, you're like, is because you're not actually in it. You stiff-armed God. Say like, no, that's not for me, or I'm too busy for that, or that person, no, not, I can't love that person. And so the question and the challenge for you today as we think about our stories and living a better story is, are you observing or are you participating? Pretty simple, right? Are you jumping in, or are you just kind of a passive bystander? And are you grabbing the hand of God and saying, God, I'll go wherever you want me to go, and I'll say whatever I need to say, and I'll serve, I'll get my hands dirty, I'll risk my reputation, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm in with you, the author of a really incredible story. Is that the attitude? Is that the perspective? Are you participating, or are you simply observing, saying, no, I'll just kind of watch other people live their lives, I'll kind of have this passive, nonchalant attitude? Man, our faith needs to be active. Our spirituality needs to be real, and it gets real when we live it out in everyday world situations. Like God is saying, it's right here. The kingdom, right here. So think about your story. Are you observing or are you participating? Jesus told the story about this. He told a parable. And we find it in Luke 10, and it's a story that you have probably heard, and we have told a lot around here at CRB because it's so foundational to how we do church around here. It's the story of the Good Samaritan and what it means to be a good neighbor. And we pick up here in Luke 10, it says this in verse 29. The man wanted to justify his action, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? And Jesus replied with a story. Again, Jesus uses stories that kind of talk about big kingdom concepts. And he goes, well, a Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes. They beat him up and left him half dead beside the road. And let's hold on to that idea of half dead, because that's really, really important. And so this guy, this Jewish guy, gets beat up on this road. He gets attacked by these robbers, and he's left like half dead. We're not sure if he's dead, but he's like, he might as well be dead because he's such in bad shape right here. And this road that he was on was notorious for these sort of attacks. They actually called this road the Way of Blood. Can you imagine that? Like, can you imagine living on the Way of Blood Street or a Way of Blood Avenue? Like people said this road, we're going to call this road the Way of Blood because it was so dangerous. It's a 17-mile stretch between Jerusalem and Jericho, and it was windy and tricky, and it was steep. Like it descended like 3,000 feet down, and people would be attacked and robbed and beaten, and it was just prime real estate for bloodshed. And so this guy gets attacked, this Jewish guy gets attacked, and then comes along a couple characters. Here's the first character. By chance, a priest. Well, this might turn out well. We have a priest, we have a religious man, a man who loves God, comes along, but when the priest saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. Woo! So he had the right theology. He knew what loving God looked like, and he calloused his heart. He saw this need over here, and he goes, "Oh, not my problem. I'm too busy for that. I can't get involved there." And he literally turns away from the story. He turns away from the opportunity to help somebody. He moved away from God. He moved away from his faith. He moved away from helping and loving somebody. See, here's what I know. You want to measure how you're doing in your story? I want you to think about how close you are to the needs of the world or how far away you are from the needs of the world. Because here's the truth. The devil is in the distance. You see, the devil had his moment there. The dark forces had their moment there by having the priest go to the other side, to move away from the story that he was being invited into. The Bible goes on to say this. A temple assistant, a Levite, walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Man, I don't know if you watched the Meghan Markle, Prince Harry interview this week, but what an incredible story as they shared kind of what was going on in the palace and in the royal family. And I wasn't going to watch this thing because I'm like, oh, please, royalty and rich people, and I don't want to hear about their problems. And I know it's incredibly cynical, right? But I sat down on Sunday night and I decided to watch, and I watched these two young people share their stories, share their hurts, Meghan Markle talked about how she struggled with her mental health and her depression got so intense that she thought about taking her life. It was compelling. And then on the other side of that interview, we had the commentators, the opinion pieces. We had social media where a lot of people were saying, oh, she's an opportunist. She's a liar. She's just making this up. It's really not that bad. And who cares? She has millions of dollars and she's going to be okay. And I think to myself, like, wow, what an interesting take on somebody's story and their pain. See, I realize we have so many opportunities and so many rationales to dismiss what we're seeing, to dismiss what we're hearing, to say like, oh, please, that's your problem. That's not my problem. Oh, please, you're rich, or you got resources, or you've got this or that. Could we as Christians, perhaps, our hot take whenever we see pain, whether it be from royalty or somebody who's laying on the side of the road, that our heart says, God, your story says I need to love, I need to listen, I need to care and empathize with whatever the suffering might be. You see, this priest and this Levite, they turned their back. They said, not my deal. And here's what happened. They chose religious purity for righteous purpose. Don't choose religious purity over a righteous purpose. You see, the Levite and the priest, they knew that this man was half dead, right? Possibly dead, not sure, but they didn't want to go over and check out to see whether he was dead or not. Because, you know why? Because the religious ritual that they believed in was that if they got within 6 feet of a dead body, they would now be unclean themselves. Or if they touched the blood, that they would be unclean and they'd have to go through all the ceremonial practices of cleansing themselves again. And they're like, too much risk, too much nuisance. I don't want to have to go back to the temple. Like, they just turned away. They created distance from the need instead of meeting it up close. Luke 10 says this. We continue on. Then a despised Samaritan, which I love. Like Jesus' stories, he's always going to surprise you. And this is a big surprise when the hero of this story is a Samaritan. Because a Samaritan is back in those days considered to be like a half Jew. And Jewish people hated the Samaritans. They were not friends at all. And yet here Jesus going, you know what? The priest did the wrong thing. The Levite did the wrong thing. But I'm going to make the Samaritan the hero of the story. And the Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Isn't that where it all starts? Compassion. Jesus says, now which of these three would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? The man replied, the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus told him, go and do the same. I think there's three perspectives here that we can look at, three different characters of this parable story that Jesus told. And I always want to tease out really quickly, like three categories that we often fall into, and the one that I think God is inviting us into. But the first category is the character of the robber. And the robber is really saying, what's yours is mine, I'll take it. And if this is your perspective and this is your outlook on life and this is how you go through, like, whatever I can get, I'm going to take, it's about me, it's about what I want, then you don't have a kingdom perspective. You don't have a kingdom mindset here. The story that you're living is not God's story. That's just your story. It's a story of selfishness. It's a story of pride and promotion. This is what the robber says. What's yours is mine. I'll take it. And that's what they did to that Jewish man on that road. And then there was the priest and the Levite, and the perspective with them is what's mine is mine. I'll keep it. See, some of us live so safe and so guarded, and we hold on to things, and we're like, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to risk anything. And so whatever I've got, I'm just going to play it safe. Maybe you're doing that today. You're like, it's too dangerous out there, too risky. I don't want to get involved with that. And when we take that perspective, the story is going to produce results that are incredibly underwhelming when it comes to God's kingdom. You're going to be ultimately frustrated by that because you know that the Spirit of God is calling you into something different, a different perspective. And that is the perspective of the Samaritan. And the Samaritan says this, what's mine is God's, I'll share it. What can you give away today? Where are you needed today? Maybe this week you've had some opportunities where maybe at work or with your family, or maybe just somebody you met at the gas station, or just have there been opportunities this week where you've acted more like the priest and the Levite, and you've just kind of closed yourself to the story? The opportunity to love, to empathize. Maybe there's somebody right now that you know is really struggling, and you've thought about texting them or giving them a call, and you're like, oh, no, I don't want to come off too strongly, or I don't know what to say. Let me ask you just a basic question. Who do you need to bring close? Do you see a face or think of a name? Maybe there's somebody who's going through a really difficult time right now. And I know the temptation to step away, to create the distance, to go around the need. We can come up with all kinds of justifications and rationalizations. It's like, oh, yeah, sorry, I don't have time, I'm too busy for that. Oh, sorry, like that doesn't match up with my political beliefs. Oh, yeah, sorry, like that may jeopardize my reputation if I got involved with that. Oh, yeah, it's like, well, that person, I'm sure they got a lot of resources and other people helping them, so I'm just going to we stiff arm God's story. And I just want to encourage you, I want to challenge you, be open. Be looking. Have your eyes open to see the needs of the world. Because you have no idea how your life will impact somebody. I had no idea that 4.5 hour drive out to Needles, California would mean so much to me, but it did. Small things. I've been a collector of baseball cards. My dad and I, for a very long time, have been collecting baseball cards, and it's a nice little hobby, and we love baseball, and so cards, just even as a kid, I would always go down to the liquor store and buy packs of cards and always eat that really horrible gum very hard gum that they would put in the baseball cards. But this week, my dad took some of our baseball cards down to a baseball card dealer to find out, what are our cards worth these days? We've just been kind of collecting them as a hobby and because we're interested in the topic of baseball. But he took down some cards, and one of the cards that he took down was this Hank Aaron baseball card. Now, Hank Aaron's a very famous baseball player, and you probably have heard of him. In fact, he just recently passed away, and we're like, I wonder how much this little card is worth. And so my dad took the card down to the baseball expert at this baseball card shop, and he goes, oh, this nice little card here. And to our surprise and shock, this little card right here is worth $2,000. I better guard it, right? It's like, I hope we got good security here at CRB. This card is worth $2,000. When my dad told me that, my mouth just hit the floor like, this little card is worth $2,000? Somebody would pay $2,000 for this? It's a piece of paper. It's old. It's tiny. And yet valuable more than I could ever even imagine. Same thing is true of your acts of love. When you help somebody, when you text somebody and say, I'm cheering you on, I know this is a tough week, but I love you and I care about you. That's like a tiny little baseball card that's worth $2,000 to somebody. When you show up with dinner for a couple that maybe just lost a child or going through a really difficult struggle in their marriage, and you show up and you're just serving and giving, that's a little baseball card that is priceless to them. When you give the guy at the gas station needs a couple bucks because he's ran out of money, Hank Aaron baseball card. You see, every day we have these opportunities to share and show love. If you want to live a better story, it's saying yes to love. It means moving close to the needs and not creating that distance, not looking away. God has this incredible plan, has this incredible purpose. He wants your life to be filled with meaning, and it begins by saying yes to love and following God's lead into this really, really great story. Let's bow our heads in prayer. God, thank you for letting us be participants in all the amazing things that you offer up to us every day. And God, I pray right now that you give us a picture, a face, a name of the person that we're supposed to move close to this week. To empathize and to love, to serve, spend a few minutes with encouraging. God, give us that clarity so that we can live out your kingdom story. We love you. We thank you. And it's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
To you, set aside my brokenness, set aside my striving. Lord, I come to you, giving you my worries, letting go of hurry. And Lord, I cry out when I'm caught in my mistakes. Would you remind me that I've died to who I've been, fully surrendered? I come before you now. You remind me your love is final. 'Cause 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 'cause
true. I need you to remind me these lies, they don't define me. Lord, I cry out when I'm caught in my mistakes. Would you remind me that I've died to who I've been, fully surrender. I come before you now. You remind me your love is final. You remind me your love is final. You're gonna rewrite my story. You turn my dust into glory. You never stop fighting for me. Your love is final, final. You're gonna rewrite my story. You turn my dust into glory. You never stop fighting for me. Your love is final, final. You're gonna rewrite my story. You turn my dust into glory. You never stop fighting for me. Your love is final, final. You're gonna rewrite my story. You turn my dust into glory. You never stop fighting for me. Your love is final, final. Lord, I cry out when I'm caught in my mistakes. Would you remind me that I've died to who I've been, fully surrendered. I come before you now. You remind me your love is final. Oh, you remind me your love is final.
Good Neighbor Day is coming up on Saturday, March 20th. Everyone has a role to play in making our community new. How will you serve? You can paint fences or make better trails for the city of Poway. You can help garden and beautify the campus of Abraxas High School. You can join our effort to make a safe space for students at Escondido High. Or you can come to the church to pack meals, deliver food and care kits, or pray. Any way you serve, you will be living out our Good Neighbor mission in the community. Registration is online and it's open now. See you there.
There's a song in my soul, and I feel it stirring in me. This I know for sure, that your love is like a flood, and your mercy never ending. I give my song to you. There's a joy in my soul, and it rises like the morning. This I know for sure, that your grace is enough, and your promise never breaking. I give my song to you. For all of your goodness is like a well running over. Oh, my soul, it sings for you. For all of your goodness, I will love you forever. Oh, my songs I'll sing for you. Yes, all my Let my life be to you a symphony, singing out holy, holy. All my days, every single breath I breathe, singing out holy, holy.